You're listening to The Artist Athlete, episode 46. This podcast is dedicated to CIRCUS. It's a place for professionals in the industry to share their stories, viewpoints, and information, and a place for outsiders to get a sneak peek into this world. Hey friends, fans, and enemies, I'm Shannon McKenna, and I'm the host of the Artist Athlete podcast and the founder of theartistathlete.com. I created this podcast as kind of a love letter to my past self, a little gift to the 22-year-old with no gymnastic or dance experience, no family connections to working in the circus, but I knew I wanted to get into the industry. I just didn't know how. And I'm so glad to hear that my project, this podcast, is resonating with so many people. And I'm especially thankful to the people who have decided that because they like this podcast so much, they want to help support it and keep it going. And they do that through the website, patreon.com. On Patreon, you can give small amounts of money each month to keep the podcast going. So, if you love what you're listening to, you're excited about the guests, the information, consider becoming a Patreon. You can go to patreon.com/theartistathlete and sign up today. All your payments are totally secure. You can stop at any time. Again, that's patreon.com/theartistathlete. My guest today is Dima Shine. And oh my God, y'all, this interview was nuts. I ran the tape for an hour and 30 minutes because Dima had so many stories to tell. So for sure, I've cut this interview up to 2 parts. This episode will be the first part, and then next week I'll play the second part. And even though Dima comes from a crazy background, I'll read his bio here in just a minute. But I loved this interview because he talked so much about something that I think we can all relate to, which is when you set a goal or you really try to get something and then you get it. What happens next? Dima started as a gymnast in Russia. He began at the late age of 11, but quickly caught up, and at 15 he won the world championship. Cirque du Soleil recognized Dima's talents and hired him to perform the show Dralion, where he met Viktor, a very accomplished circus artist and juggler who mentored Dima throughout his career. After Dralion, Dima quit working to spend 2 years in the circus school in Kiev, Ukraine, adapting his acrobatic technique and perfecting his abilities to achieve his goal to create a unique, breathtaking, world-class hand balancing act yet to be seen. I think Dima probably wrote this. Dima Shine's hand balancing act was presented at the International Circus Festival in Paris, Cirque du Soleil, in 2006. The new creation was subsequently an incredible success. In Paris, he received a gold medal and the Prix du Public, which has been followed by gold medals at the Latina Festival in Italy, in Grenoble, France, and at the Demain Festival, confirming Dima's place among one of the greatest performances in circus arts of our time. Here's part 1 of my interview with Dima Shine. Okay.
So excited.
Yeah, man.
Turn it off. Everything is good.
Dima Shine.
Yes.
Welcome to the Artist Athlete
Thank
podcast.
You.
So, just like I just said, can you say a little bit about who you are, what you do?
Yes. My official name is Dmitry Bulkin. My stage name is Dima Shine. I'm Russian from a very small town, about 50 miles out of Moscow. And I'm a circus performer, circus artist. I do hand balancing.
Wait, I have so many questions now.
Just ask one by one.
Yeah, okay, so why Shine? How'd you get that last name?
Oh, you know what? I have a friend, Viktor. Probably you heard about him.
Yeah, he's a juggler, for those of you who don't know.
He worked with Cirque du Soleil for many years, and he's incredibly talented and
amazing,
cool guy. Yeah, so he's my friend, and when we were creating, he was helping me to create my act. And when we were creating, he just, because he also has the stage name Key, he just at one point he asked me like, what do you think of like Dima Shine? And I asked him like, why do I need that? And I don't think I need that. So I said, no, I don't like that. I'll just keep my name and everything. And then I started performing, and then no one from other countries, people, they couldn't pronounce my last name correctly. They always like make fun of it.
Oh.
And especially when they say it loud and everything. And after a year and a half, I translated Shine correctly into Russian, which I didn't do before. And it sounded beautiful. It's like the person who shines the light from the inside, and it's like very cool. It's not one word to translate.
What is it in Russian?
It's like the person the light shines from inside of you. Kind of this kind of explanation.
Yeah, but what is...
Излучающий свет.
Okay, cool. Got it.
Exactly. And it sounded so cool. And I was like, wow, that's really nice. So that's why I was like, no, yeah, let's do it. I'll use
awesome. So how did you start? In your tiny town in Russia?
Yes, the first thing I did the sport acrobatics. When I was 11.
Can you say what that is? Because a lot of my audience...
Sports acrobatics, now it's a part of gymnastics, but it's instead of working with equipment, you work with the people. So it's in English, I think it's called bankin.
Uh-huh.
So that's what
I know bankin is just when you're...
Exactly, but that's a men's group. Mm-hmm. There's different types of bankin in the act, as you can see. Men's group, and there's mixed pair, and there's men's pair, and there's woman pair, and there's woman trio. There's different types, but at least you can have an idea what bankin is. That's what sports acro is.
I always said I missed my calling as a middle.
Yeah.
For sport acro.
And I was the flyer.
You were, of course.
I was very small and tiny and light.
Nice. When did you start? How old were you?
11.
Okay.
Which is super late. Usually people start 4 or 5.
Yeah. Why did you start?
I was always super active, and then in my little town we didn't have anything much around. I did a little bit martial arts. I did a little piano music. I can play piano a little bit. And then I still had a lot of energy, so we were traveling around little small cities around ours, and we were just looking for something to do, and that's when we found acro.
So you started at 11?
Started 11. Had
flyer.
my career at 15. I won world championship.
No, 4 years later.
Yep.
Wow.
Pretty fast, huh? Okay, 4.5.
Wow.
I had one of the very best coaches in the world.
Really?
His name is Vladimir Gurgenidze. He passed away a year and a half ago, but he was one of the very, very, very best.
That's crazy. And he just happened to be in this tiny town, or did you go...
That guy had a crazy story. He was a multimillionaire living in Georgia, having a clothing factory and everything, blah, blah. And he did acro just a hobby because his parents did it and everything. And then when the war started and they burned down the factory in front of his eyes, blah, blah, he had to come as a refugee to another small town next to ours, maybe 6 miles, 7-8 miles off my town. And he was living there and teaching at a regular school, a regular school gym instructor, blah blah. And that's how he started there.
What?
And it's just I don't know, called destiny or whatever.
What?
It just happened that way, yeah.
That is a crazy story.
So he accidentally ended up there, and I went to that town. I was living not far from there, and then we connected.
Nice.
Yeah, super cool.
Won Worlds at 15.
Yep. And then at 16 I finished my career because I like my character. I like to get stuff and move on. I don't like I like try new stuff and learn new stuff and do different things. So for me, I always want to reach forward, and when I got that one, I was it's just...
Yeah, where do you go from there?
Exactly. I mean, you can do 2 times or 3 times or 4 times. Yeah, but it's just good. It's just, it's you're doing the same thing. So for me, I always wanted something new, and that's when I finished career the next year. And I actually didn't know what to do. I was thinking to go maybe to university to study tourism and hospitality and restaurants and hotels and everything. But then Cirque du Soleil came into town with their castings, and they called us. The main coach of our Russian Olympic team for sports acro, he told me that there's a casting, and I just went to Moscow to do the casting. And then I got auditioned, and I got invited to Montreal to their like main headquarters that they have. And I went there for the first time to do bankin for Kidam.
Okay, cool.
And then as soon as I got there, it was me from my team, from my month 4, and there was another month 4 that we competed in sport the whole time, and they came as a whole team there. So we went there, and the flyer on the first like couple of weeks.
Wait, so do you mean like your whole banking team went
Yes.
together to audition, and then they brought you in?
No, from my banking team, only you. Only, yes, because
Okay.
my partners, they did different stuff. They didn't want to continue circus or sport or something like that. So they move on to another stuff, and then I went to audition. I got the audition, and then I went to Montreal, and then that's where I went from my team by myself, and then the other team was completely full. And then the flyer from the other team, in the first couple of weeks, he breaks his leg, and I go into their team. So it was a little weird, you know?
That is a little weird.
I don't know, like really like competing in sport.
Whoa.
But they're nice guys. So we trained there, but as soon as I got to the first audition, I realized, okay, I want to do my solo act. I need to do something by myself, because I always wanted to do by myself, because when you work by yourself, you're responsible for yourself, and it's like in a big group, you can train the hardest, but somebody is slacking or not training as hard, but you get the same results. And where if you train by yourself, the result depends on you. If you train good, you do good. If you don't train enough, then it's your fault. And I always like that. So I always wanted to do my solo act, and especially I was the smallest one, the youngest one. Nobody paid attention to me. Nobody cared really what I thought. So for me, it was a point also, and I wanted to do that. That was my first like idea why I wanted to do the hand balancing. And then I started to see what can I do, what my talents are. And I could do a little bit of handstands. So that was the first thing. I was like, yeah, I'll try handstands. Then someone showed me the video of Anatoly Zalewski there, and everybody just like, wow. It was like super cool. It was like watching Michael Jackson on the video. By the way, and the life is so funny. By the way, now we're good friends with Anatoly many years after. And yeah, I started to train my solo act, plus I was working practicing for bankin in the show Kidam.
How is it different with sport acro, like training bankin in that environment, versus training for Cirque du Soleil? Did you find it very different?
What do you mean?
Like,
sport?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course it's different, because in sport you know the program, you know the tricks you want to do, you know the difficulty of the tricks, you know it's strategic. You just put your program the way, so the strongest one by the points, but the difficulty so you can win and make it the cleanest. At Cirque, it's not the difficulty anymore, it's the visual effect, how much audience can appreciate it, plus you're not preparing as much before the tricks, because it's acting. It's there's a lot of things involved. A part of it, you're not just competing. You're trying to do the very top, as much as top as you can handle, and you go with it to competitions. At Cirque, you have to do, like, for example, in Las Vegas, I work at Zumanity. We did 470 shows a year, which is 10 shows per week. Yeah. It's tough. You cannot stay at the level that you stay in sport. You cannot do 470 shows. In sport, you just go, like, there's off season, there is season, and when there is season, you push yourself like crazy. You get to your peak shape, and that's when you perform, and then you go a little bit easier on yourself, but you cannot stay there for a long time. You're just gonna get injured.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So you were doing banking,
yep,
Zumanity, And then you
No,
wanted
I
to...
didn't do bankin.
Oh, sorry. What were you doing? Kidam.
No, I didn't get there. I was practicing for kidam. I was practicing in
I should stop interrupting you and drink my coffee.
It's okay. I was practicing in Montreal to get to kidam, and also my kind of started practicing my hand balancing. But one of the performers of the Flyers, he didn't want to resign or something, so they were planning me for that position. But at the very last moment, he signed his contract, so there was no place, and I had to come back home. Came back home absolutely pissed.
Yeah, I bet. And you did all of that training.
Exactly. And we were sitting, I remember the final party, like before flying home. And one of the guys from that team actually that I was training with, he told me like, everything happens for better, so just take it easy. And I was like, I understand that everything happens for better, but how can this happen for better, Like I didn't get what I wanted. I mean, now in ending up, I see that it is for better. So, and then blah, blah, I came back to Russia. I had half a year break. I knew that the Cirque would call me second time for Russian bar, for Alegria. So I have half a year break. And then again, our Olympic coach, he comes to me and he's like, there is a Russian circus, there's a team of Russian bar who needs a flyer, they're going to Monte Carlo, and I was like, oh, sure. Anyway, I'm going to come back in half a year to Cirque to do Russian bar, so it's just a good time to learn. And I went there and I stayed there for a month. I just did one trick, very simple, especially for an acrobat. And
what trick did you do?
A double front with a half turn.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I didn't even have to warm up, And then I went to Monte Carlo for the festival for 2 weeks. I mean, the act wasn't strong.
Wait a second. So you just went to Monte Carlo
just to hang out, basically.
Double flat.
Yes. Exactly.
For the festival.
Beautiful. No, the whole team did like different tricks.
Sure. Yeah, of course.
There's the whole thing is just my part because somebody left, I guess.
Okay.
So they got me as to replace the guy that left, and I had 3 weeks of training, so I'm like, we just got this trick and that's it. They didn't want me to do anything else, and I didn't really push much as well, so I just went there I considered it like a 2 weeks vacation in Monte Carlo, which was amazing.
Yeah, I bet.
I was walking around all day and then getting tired, and then in the evening we would do a show, and I was like, I would of course wouldn't do it if I would go now doing hand balancing. But yeah, that was fun. So after we came back, I left and I went to Cirque again, and I did Russian bar. And then second time, usually go second time, they 80-90% they're gonna give you something because that's why they call you. But second time, they didn't give me anything.
What?
Yeah, it was insane. I was super pissed, and I was like, I'm probably gonna finish my career because I'm not just gonna keep coming back and
that's
do
insane, dude.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I was ready to go home. So tomorrow I have to fly home. I have my baggage, I have my ticket for the taxi, I have everything, plane tickets, everything in my pocket, passport ready, everything. And then we have the last show, kind of presentation of what you do, the formation, they always do that. And then after the show, a lady who gives the contract usually, she came back to me and she was like, the situation is somebody in show Dralion, the Chinese guy, he got injured and we need a replacement. But usually the whole Chinese group in Dralion, that was before they would change every 2 years completely the show. But it was year and a half already, so they didn't want to bring anybody else to replace him from China. So they're like, can you do that? And even before asking which act to do, I was like, yeah, sure I can. And they're like, well, we didn't tell you what to do. I'm like, I don't care. And then, it was a big, I don't know if you've watched Dralion.
Yeah.
It was there's second half starts with 2 small balls on the side and one big one in the center that the guy goes on top of the ball. He goes around the middle of the stage, jumps backflip, and then boom, the act starts and everybody runs off. And they gave me they're like, okay, you're gonna train for 3 months And then if we see the improvement after that, blah, blah, then you're going to go to the show. So they give me the ball on Tuesday. And on Friday I was like, I'm ready. It was like really simple, like backflips, and I did even one hand on the ball. It was like I started with handstands. So it was just like a playing game, you know. I didn't even warm up much for that. So I did that, and then after 2 weeks I went to Dralion. I was continuing, actually, I forgot to tell that during the second formation I was still training my hand balancing. And then I went to Dralion. Everyone would come about 3-4 p.m. to do like warm up, do trainings, and then do the shows. I would come every morning like 10-11 a.m. and I would just train until the very time before the show, do 2 shows, and then I would stay after the show, train again, my hand balancing.
And were you alone? Like,
yeah, pretty
did you
much.
have the coach or anybody?
No.
Wow, you really had a vision of like where it was going then.
I don't
or something like how the hell did you have like
I don't know if I had a vision. I just wanted to have my solo act so much. That's it. Okay. I didn't know I didn't know the vision of the act I'm gonna do. No, definitely not. I was just training hand balancing. And that's where I met Viktor Key. He was working at Dralion at the time, blah blah. And then we started to hang out, and we started to talk more, and then we became friends. And
does Viktor Key train every day at like 11 a.m. too?
Not 11. I
bet he juggles like forever.
Not 11, but he trains a lot, and not as much as he used to. Of course, juggling is like 24/7.
Yeah.
But he trains every day. So that's where we met and started to hang out. He had another student there for juggling, Chinese guy. He was training with him sometimes, and I tried to get into their company. And then they were talking about circus school in Ukraine, in Kiev, where Viktor studied. So I heard that, and I was like, where's the circus school? What is this? When? So, because I got my contract for Dralion only temporary for half a year.
Okay, and how old are you at this point?
18, 19.
18, 19, okay.
18, yeah.
Yeah.
I got for half a year only, so I heard about the circus school, and I was keep practicing every day. I heard about the circus school, and I was like, wow, I want to go there, because I didn't know what to do after half a year, after I'm going to finish. But then the question came up that closer to when my contract was finishing, you know how Cirque du Soleil, they don't give you choice of what you want. They say, okay, we have a contract for the show, here's the conditions, blah, blah, take it or leave it. Mm-hmm. And I was finishing Dralion, and Cirque gave me 3 options to choose from, which is, I didn't hear that before. They gave me to choose from Bankin Kidam, Russian bar Alegria, and Russian swing Verikai. And I was like, wow.
What?
and I didn't do much in the Dralion, like the ball stuff. I didn't even warm up that hard, you know, but those acts are crazy. It's super hard, super difficult. I've done like all of them except the Russian swing, and I know that it's just insane. It's super difficult, super dangerous, and that's where I started to decide to take a contract and go work, because it was already there, available. I mean, I'm in Cirque, and best place for the circus performers. It's a okay salary. Now it's okay. At that time it was good, and everything is like right there. Or leave it and go somewhere. I have no idea where. Some Ukraine, some Kiev circus school I've never been, and create something I dream about, but you have no idea it's gonna work or not. And I decided to quit Cirque and go to circus school. Usually people go to circus school and then to Cirque du Soleil.
Yeah, man.
I went to Cirque du Soleil and quit Cirque du Soleil to go to circus school.
What's wrong with you?
Yeah. So yeah.
You're already making a living doing it. Like, what are you
exactly
thinking?
And then I finished Cirque du Soleil, and I went to Kiev to circus school, and I thought to stay there for a year. Well,
so did you just like show up in Kiev one day, or you like applied and auditioned?
No, we went to we were finishing in London my contract, and then they had 2 weeks break, and Viktor like, okay, let's go hang out, because he had 2 weeks break. He's like, let's go hang out with me. I'm going to Paris because that's what his girlfriend was, let's go to Paris, and then we're gonna drive to Germany, see some shows, and blah blah blah. I'm like, well, that's perfect plan. So I went to Paris, and then Paris went to Cirque du Soleil festival that time, where I met. He introduced me to everyone, including Anatoly Zalevsky. I met for the first time. It was very cool, very nice guy, very interesting. And I met like lots of different like producers and shows and artists and performers and everything. It was super cool. And that's in Paris. I met the director of Circus School of Kiev, of Ukraine.
Oh,
Perfect. That's where we met, and then we agreed that I'm gonna come and I'm gonna be like a foreign student, and I'm gonna just train there and create my act. And that's what we agreed about, this how I'm gonna arrive, and I was living in Viktor's apartment for like first couple weeks until I rent something. And that's and then after that we went to Germany. We traveled some different dinner shows and Palazzo and GOP and all that stuff, and met some incredible performers and owners and everything. So it was like a big like inclusion into circus world, like the first time that I really,
you got like a crash course.
That I really saw something, a part of Cirque du Soleil, because when you as a athlete, you go to Cirque du Soleil and you have no idea that there's other things existing. For you, it's just Cirque du Soleil. That's the circus. That's the world you have. That's it. You have no idea what's around it. But when you go off Cirque du Soleil, there's so many more exciting places to work, like Zinzani or like. So that was like crash course. Got into it, and that's it. After 2 weeks, I went back to Russia, packed my stuff, and I went to Ukraine. That's why a lot of circus performers think that I'm Ukrainian. Because I was training in Ukraine and Kiev.
Well, we can set the record straight now.
Yeah,
you're Russian.
When
you were in Kiev, did you work mostly artistically, like on the act?
No, mostly technically. Technically, both. You cannot just take one or the other one. First, I was working on the tricks to get stronger, because I wasn't at that level. I wasn't strong enough technically. And then when I was getting technically, at the same time I was like thinking about the idea of the act and trying new things and discovering new things. And Viktor came up. One day we were training with Viktor, and he came up with this idea to do the pole. He came to me in the morning and he's like, "Oh, I had a dream." I'm like, "What's up?" And in Dralion, there's like, have you seen Dralion? There's a hand balancer. It's similar. It's like
yes, I saw it. I saw the arena. I feel like I saw it in an arena show, maybe like 4 or 5 years ago.
It's like there's a tall pole, but with a little pedestal that the girl stands, and she does like the hand balancing. Yes. And also they have a lot of Chinese pole in that show.
Yes.
So he came to me one morning. He's like, I had a dream. How about if we do like the pole that's there, like the pole? But also you can do like the side stuff, like the Chinese pole that they use. And that's where the idea came from. That's when we started to practice, and I came to Kiev and I went to some factory. I built this super heavy equipment, like huge. I was like over like maybe like 250 pounds. Whoa. Like huge, like over 100 kilograms. It was still like moving. It wasn't like very well done, but still something to practice on. And I was just training ideas and trying to getting stronger technically, and trying to just put it together and see where it's going. That's how I started. And then I planned to stay in Kiev for half a year. I stayed there a year and a half. After half a year, I realized that I'm not there. But it's going the right direction, so I need to stay longer. So I stayed there a little longer.
Did you know you were there, or like finished, like when you finished the act? I'm always interested in this, because I feel like especially people who are like, I always want that. Yeah, exactly. Like people are like, "Oh, I'm not good enough yet. Oh, I don't have this trick, or I don't have this." But there's always more, right?
There's always more. If you're gonna think that way, you're never gonna finish. Right. You have to start at some point. Of course, there's a certain level that you want to achieve. Yeah. But you cannot just. It's a fine line between achieving what you want, and of course keep practicing and progressing after that, even after you start. But just having that, being afraid to start because I'm not that good enough yet, it's kind of
right. Totally.
Of course you have to see there's a market. You see what people do, you see what kind of a level there is, and then you see what you do, and you kind of you see the range, so you kind of logically can adapt and see which level you are, but you cannot just, of course, if you just did the like couple of weeks in circus school, you cannot say, oh, I'm good, I'll get better with the time. No, of course you need to get to the level, but at the same time there's always room to grow.
Totally.
You don't want to always just train, there's also our time is very limited in our field, so you always also have to work.
So you finished the act?
Finished the act, and then we would just, I finished like in June. It was like finishing of the circus school. And then Viktor was traveling in Germany somewhere, so I went to Germany. We were working on the act a little bit more. And then in December, I was working in Crystal Palace. I did 1 month in this Crystal Palace, and I went to Cirque du Soleil Paris Festival.
Okay.
I did 2 weeks in GP before I went, in Essen. And then I went to Cirque du Soleil. That was my ultimate goal. That was my ultimate dream since I left Cirque du Soleil.
Was to perform at
my star is just to go there and to get that festival. That was my one dream, and second dream is to leave Cirque du Soleil, create an act, and then come back on my conditions. That was my second dream. Dreams are come true,
Yeah. Dreams
do come true.
What was it like performing at Demain?
Amazing. Actually, of course, I was super stressful. I was just like training day and night.
Sure.
But when I was performing, I was kind of I enjoyed it. I was
good.
Not as much as I enjoy now. For example, like now, month and a half I was performing, I was really like having fun. At that time, of course, I was more concentrated and nervous. But still, it was a great experience.
Cool.
It was amazing.
Cool.
It was super cool. I got the gold and prize of the public, and then a couple other prizes. I don't remember which ones, but
congratulations.
Thanks. It was super cool.
That's dope. It's funny because I feel like you probably had enough connections then to, like, I feel like a lot of people go to the festival and they get seen, they make connections, they can work from there, but it's just this funny trajectory for you because you were working.
I just started the first contract. I didn't do much.
Okay.
I didn't have a lot of connections. The only reason I got those first 2 contracts is because of Viktor. Because of his connections, thankfully to his experience, everything that he's done for many years before, that would help me to step on that stage. Of course, it would take much longer if I wouldn't do that. But because he's done that before, that would give me the... And then when I went to Cirque du Soleil, that's where actually the connection started to come from. People saw me for the first time, and after that I had a lot of work. After that I just worked non-stop pretty much. I was like super busy. It was super successful.
Any favorite contracts?
Favorite ones? I mean, all of them were great. It's just the thing, as I said at the beginning, I like new stuff. I like challenge, and I like continue to there. So for me, Cirque du Soleil was like super dream that I wanted to achieve. I was like living, breathing, dreaming about this 24/7. Like even my girlfriend at the time, she was like, she was there to support me, and she felt that energy that that was me, the whole thing. And when I won it, a little bit after, that was a weird time because I felt lost. I felt empty inside because I just gave so much. It wasn't just like I won it and I enjoy it and then I'm having fun and I'm living happily ever after, all that stuff. No, I have the thing inside of me that I always want something to achieve. And if I don't have the goal, I feel empty. And that's what I felt after Paris. I felt empty and I didn't enjoy. I like to go for something, get something, but when I'm done, it's I need something else. So I felt empty and it wasn't fun for some time, and I was always trying to remind myself, okay, enjoy the time, enjoy just working around different places, blah blah. That's why I worked so hard before, so I could come to that level and just enjoy the time. I was enjoying because I couldn't just work with no goal in front, And then at that time we had a big conflict with Viktor, blah blah, just personalities.
Okay.
We hit it up and we didn't see each other because he was performing one side of the world, I was the other side of the world, traveling, super tired, new stuff, super like lots of emotions, and we were like fighting all the time. So we, at some point, we really hit it up, and then we're like, okay, fuck off to each other, and we didn't talk for half a year.
Ugh.
Yeah, we just went apart because it was like, okay, whatever.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I just.
But you still had your second goal in all of this, right?
Yeah,
you still had your
course.
individual
CIRCUS. It doesn't come as fast, you know. It doesn't come with the prize from Cirque du Soleil. Like, okay, here's your goal, here's your contract.
You could ever want. Sorry about your interpersonal relationships, but whatever.
Yeah, I came back to Kyiv at some point to train. I was doing like some events. I did the show. Same thing, America's Got Talent.
Yeah.
But I did it in Russia. I was at home. I had nothing to do. I didn't have, during the summer when we fought with Viktor, I didn't take a lot of jobs because we were fighting and everything. So I was just home, nothing to do. And there's a TV commercial for this Russia's Got Talent. And my mother says like, why don't you go there? Write down the phone number. And I'm standing there there was my phone or something. I was like, yeah, sure, why not? So I wrote down the phone number. I called them. I went to audition. So at the end of the day, I won the TV show.
Of course you did.
It was so fun.
Of course you did.
So, of course. It's hard, you know, doing the TV show like that.
Yeah.
It's like super unpredictable, but something happened and I won that show.
What's it like going on one of those shows? I don't think I've ever interviewed anyone.
I was a second season, so there were no circus performers yet.
Yeah.
And when I performed there, after that, I was one of the first ones. There was another hand-to-hand couple in the first season, but one or two, you know, it's so little amount. And when I went there, I got a lot of hate messages from circus performers oh, how come you're a professional going on this TV amateur TV show, blah, blah, blah. It's only for amateurs and all that stuff. And now look it up. It's a biggest circus festival now. And I went there, so I won that show. And that's it. And then after a while, we started to communicate with Viktor again. We would talk it out. We met, and then we started to work again together. And then I just started to work. I was based in Germany.
Can I ask a little bit more about your relationship with him? Is he kind of your...
He is my good friend with lots of experience, and he's very wise, very interesting person that I look up to, and I also ask questions about stuff and about career, about life, he's my mentor. Yeah, so we started to communicate, started to work again with each other. I met up in Germany, and I was based in Germany, mostly Germany, Berlin and Frankfurt, for about 3.5 years. I was working there, traveling I did events all over the world, but kind of was based my address was in Germany. And how do you call this when there's
air quotes.
When there's no
video.
Yeah,
you can. He was based air quotes in Germany,
and working all over the place, all around the world, doing events, doing some shows.
And were you always doing this hand balancing act?
Yes.
Every single time?
Yes.
So what's it like for somebody who works so hard to get to a level, who has these goals, and then for years and years and years you're just doing the same act?
It's a lot, first of all, a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Because it's not the thing is with the act, it's not like you do the same thing. Hand balancing, if you try it, the thing is, first of all, you always have to train because it's like juggling. It's just physically very exhausting. Now I've done hand balancing for, let's count my sport career as well. Let's say from 11, now I'm 33, for 22 years. And trust me, I'm having 3 days off and I already feel off balance. 3 days off after 22 years. So it's something that you always have to, it's not like you have it. You always have to stay on top of it. You always have to train. You always have to progress. It's very hard you always have to kind of improve because it's difficult just to stay on the same level. And the balance is alive. It's when you're standing on your hands, you feel it. It's a live thing. It's not like it's just you stand there and you feel nothing. No, it's alive. So the feelings, the emotions, the senses, everything is changing constantly. So even though it seems like it's the same thing, it's always different. I can make a comparison. Same thing. It's like a musician. You tell to a musician, "Oh, you're always playing music, or you're always doing the same." Just because they have a little bit broad variety of notes and music and melody and elements in it. That is why for us it seems, it's so much different. Mm-hmm. But that's how people look at the hand balancing. The only thing they see is just the pose. But this pose is a music. It's alive. It's so many senses and emotions and everything in it that people don't see. That's why they think it's boring. No, it's not. It's same thing as a musician. You do your field.
That's beautiful.
That was so cool, right?
Wow, Dima, you're so deep.
And imagine that we're not smoking
We're not
hookah
even
yet.
smoking hookah
Wow,
yet.
I would be much deeper than that.
Fire it up. That was part 1 of my interview with Dima Shine. Next week, we'll hear a little bit more about his second goal, to be booked on Cirque du Soleil with his own act coming into the company on his terms, and a bunch of other fascinating stuff, including how he established Shine Fitness. But looking back on this part of the interview, the beginning of Dima's career, 3 things really stuck out to me that I think are interesting and actionable for anyone who wants a career in circus, even if you don't start at 11 and happen to have the best coach in the world just living in the tiny village that you are also living in. The first thing that Dima is that struck me about him is how goal-oriented he is, how he set his sights on something and then he worked tirelessly to get it. He talks about being on Dralion and coming in at 10, 11 a.m. in the morning when everybody else came in at 3 or 4, and then doing a show and then staying after the show to continue training his hand balancing, which is the kind of dedication that is required to get to where Dima wanted to go. What's interesting about being goal-oriented, and I love how candid Dima was about this, is that when you achieve that goal, or when you start to define yourself by taking actions toward something really large, and then you get that thing, something happens where there's this gap or this loneliness or this absence, right? I was actually just on Instagram this morning. I posted something about last week's episode, and a performer commented beneath, who was an artist on Cirque du Soleil. She said it was her goal to be on Cirque du Soleil, and then she got it, and she realized that what she got out of it was not at all what she thought she was going to get. So it's interesting how sometimes the experience of going for the goal can be the most satisfying part, and then once you get it, what happens afterwards? Who are you despite that goal is really the question, I think. The other thing that impressed me about Dima and this interview was how big of a role Viktor Key played in Dima's life. Now, if you are not a circus professional or in the world in a really deep way, maybe you don't know who Viktor Key is, but I will put in the show notes a link to some of Viktor's work. He's probably one of the greatest performers out there, definitely on the Cirque du Soleil docket. Oh, by the way, Viktor, if you want to come on the show, you are more than welcome anytime. For Dima, having a mentor like Viktor was essential to getting the work that he needed. And Dima found this mentor not by emailing him or going around and bothering him. He just showed up every day wherever Viktor was on Dralion and trained. And Viktor saw the dedication and saw that this was a person worth investing in. So if you're looking for a mentor or someone to help you, you have to do the work. You have to show that person that you are putting in the effort and the time required so that they know that you're worth the investment. The last thing that I just think was kind of funny about what Dima stated was this idea of a backwards trajectory, or that he was already doing the thing, right? He already had the contract for Cirque. He already knew that he was set, and he already knew that he could do the job he wanted to do. And yet, he decided to give up any stability or renewing a contract with Cirque because he wanted his own act. And he knew in order to do that he was going to have to go backwards. He was going to have to leave his career and go back to school to work on himself more. I think this is a really, really important thing that some people might miss. Some people who think that they're already doing the thing or they're already big in their market. But if you want to get to the next step, sometimes it requires giving up a bit of your security or giving up a bit of your reputation and going and being a very small fish again in a very big pond so you can gain the skills necessary to move you forward. Wow, cool. I actually had a lot to say about that interview. Okay, so next week, the second part of my interview with Dima, what he does after Demain, where he builds, where he goes. It's super interesting. You guys want to tune in for the next part, I promise. If in the meantime you want to check out Dima, for sure I have some links in the show notes to his full-length videos. He's also on Instagram, Dima, Dima.shine. And as for me, as always, for training tips and inspiration, you can follow me on Instagram at @the_artist_athlete. I'm also on Facebook, The Artist Athlete, and you can find me on my website, theartistathlete.com. Again, if you love what you're listening to and want to contribute directly to the podcast, to my editors, to the equipment, to what keeps you inspired every week, go to patreon.com/theartistathlete, become a Patreon. I will love you forever, and maybe you'll even get a shout out on the show. Who knows? Talk at you next week, friends, fans, and enemies. The Artist Athlete podcast is supported solely by donations from people like you. Here's what some of those people have to say.
Hi, I'm Katie Betts, and I'm the director of Shared Culture Concepts, which is a full-service marketing company for circus and performing arts. You can visit our website at www.sharedcultureconcepts.com. On the website, you can find a copy of our ebook, which covers basics of marketing, specifically for circus educators, coaches, studio owners, and circus artists.
Aloha! My name is Beth Russell, and I live on the beautiful island of Maui, Hawaii. I am an aerial artist and movement instructor specializing in chakra yoga to keep me balanced and grounded. I play with silks, trapeze, lyra, rope, acro, aerial yoga and dance, slacklining, pole, bungee, and climbing. Really anything that goes up and allows me to explore 3D space. You can find my dedicated aerial page on Instagram at Maui Aerialist. If you find yourself coming to Maui, let's play.
Hey there, friends, fans, and enemies. This is Chris Alston, Patreon of the Artist Athlete podcast. Straps artist and lyra performer and acrobat out of Greenville, South Carolina. So, if you're ever passing through, make sure to stop in and see me and my friends. We have a wonderful space, and we'd love to see you.
Hi, my name is Erica Lee. I'm from St. Louis, Missouri, and I'm an aerialist. I teach performing arts to elementary school during the day and do pole and swings and rope by night. I really, really like the Artist Athlete podcast because it gives me a lot of circus goals to look forward to. It gives me a lot of insight on what's going on around the world in circus, and that's why I'm Patreon.
Hello all. Thank you for tuning in to the Artist Athlete podcast. I am Opal Schwartz from Minneapolis, Minnesota. If you're ever in the cities, feel free to stop by the Aviary Minneapolis. It's a great time. With that, I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your week, and goodbye.